this now allows us to use the audio from the game. One moment. Okay, let's try this again. Sorry about that. Alright, so the game so far. The game is predominantly made for mobile, but it will work on PC. There is 2 players, and each has their own screen. And the game is zooming around this little space room and trying to pick up the weapons, the stars quicker than the other player, right? And last session we implemented a new aiming mechanic with the touch button. So the problem, the problem with shooting on a touch screen is that your left and right engines are not really very accessible when you shoot, press the shoot button. And so what we did was, as you hold down the shoot button, it actually expands in both directions, and you can drag to aim left or right. So that was something we did the other day, and I think that's made a big difference to the touch controls. So and you can see that weapon freezes the enemy. So I've been doing some design recently, and just sort of sketching on my tablet different colors and things, and I want to implement a sort of zigzag retro purple and green background underneath this that sort of pulses in time with the music. So I think that will bring a lot to the visuals. So I'm going to try and do that today. So in our game scene, we have not in our game scene, sorry, in our world scene, we have this fog texture which we're hiding because it's way too slow and the effect just isn't really worth it. But what I think I will do is call this zigzag instead and jump into the shader and create a new shader for this. Okay, and we'll put this in shaders, and I'll just call it zigzag. So Sparkword, sorry, I didn't get to say hello, because I was dealing with audio issues. So you like watching people use Godot? I don't know if you're still there. How long have you been using it for? I'm relatively new. I'm coming from like Flash and Unity background predominantly. I did like a lot of game development 15 years ago, and I haven't done it for a long time. I'm just getting into Godot now. Honestly, the first reason was Unity took like 5 minutes to load on my little MacBook, and that just wasn't good enough for me. So I thought, well, I'll try Godot and I can build some prototypes and things like that, but I just fell in love with the engine. So we want a shader type, canvas item, and we want a void fragment shader, I believe. Okay, so I've been looking around and there's a decent example here over at the bookofshaders.com, and I think I will use this along with my limited, very, very limited knowledge of shaders to do a bit of a zigzag. So let's go over to Book of Shaders, and under examples there is a under shapes something, I think here, what is it, patterns? Yeah. There we go. So I think that's something that we want to essentially mimic. So we're going to drag this in and figure out what it's going to look like. So I don't think we're going to need the mouse. We're not going to need the mouse. We're not going to need the time. It's already provided to us through the Godot engine, and I think even the resolution we should have available to us. Okay, so this is in fact our fragment. Okay, and our U resolution, let's just bring up the Godot shader documents. Documentation even. Okay, so what is available to us? I think we look at our built-ins. Okay, so we just want to replace the U time for just time, wherever we're using that. Are we even using it? We're not using the mouse, we're not using the time either, are we? No. Okay, cool. It's just the resolution, and green texture. Viewport size. I mean, I'm not sure whether we're really going to need that. In fact, probably just put resolution is equal to a vector 2. I'm just going to hard code it until I can figure out what it's how to actually get through Godot. You know, I really should stop learning new things on stream. It's really stressful. You feel like an idiot thing. Const vec2. I was doing shaders a while back, and it's actually not as hard as it looks, but the GL frag coordinate. So I guess that's going to be UV dot XY. Okay. And finally, we're just going to say color equals. Alright. And the color here, we're going to say silver white. I see. Okay. So whoever wrote this original shader is not being very nice with the variable names. It's really, really bad naming. ST. Okay. Yeah, we could just have a play around instead, and then do this step by step, because there's no way I'm gonna understand all of this without names, right? Okay, so I guess the simplest thing we can do is just say that the color is equal to color, and then define, let's say like background color, and we can just define a uniform background. I guess it's underscore in shader language, and that's going to be a color of vector equals split 1.0. Alright, so that's the simplest thing we can do, and that's just going to set the color to white. So we can say 1.0, 1.0, 1.0. So that's setting the color to white. And then we can say like the screen UV dot X. So if we say another like uniform int size width, let's say equals, actually this probably should be a float. So we've got a width. So if the X is greater than width, no. If we say the length of the screen XY is greater than width, else, right? And here we're going to create another color, and we're going to call this foreground color. And let's just make it red for now. So, oh dear. There we go. So now that should create like a red line at some point. Let's bump this up a little bit. If the length is less, there we go. Okay, so that's interesting. So what are they doing here? I'm trying to remember how these this resolution thing works.